Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great-ish. This weekend I worked on two projects. I came down here, I spent some time in a shop. Actually, I, I guess I kind of worked on three projects, and maybe I'll put a picture in if I remember, but I went to the Home Depot and I bought the lumber that I need to create the base for the new work table. And I have a Ford Focus, little car. So I took my circular saw and a speed square and a tape measure with me, and I was in the parking lot cutting the wood down because one, finding somebody in Home Depot to do that is impossible, and two, they're less competent than I am. I just cut it myself. And a lady laughed at me. I heard a giggle, and I looked around, and she was like getting in her car, watching what I was doing because I was cutting this material down so I could fit it in my trunk. And it was like, really, lady? So I guess I technically started that project, but I worked on these two projects this weekend, and both of them had failures for various different reasons. This is the salt cellar. I've shown it to you before. I worked on this. I started trying to figure out how to make a base. I found this piece of walnut in my stash that has like the sapwood on the back. I thought it was a nice look to have that little gradient. And my thought was I'll just glue this together and we'll have a box. That was the plan this weekend. I also started and finished this project. This is a K-cup holder for a Keurig. So let's talk about the failures. On this little guy, I just made this. I was originally going to take. I have some thicker, like 2-inch maple material, and I was going to drill out a cavity in it. This is a salt cellar that's intended to hold MSG on one side and salt on the other. And I found that I had this thinner material lying around, so I started putting this together. And I basically was like, I'll put a box together, I'll glue a bottom on, I'll make a lid, we'll be done. And I guess theoretically that's still possible, but this project had failed in ways that I'm basically abandoning it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it at this point, but I think I'm going to abandon it. And the reason is, I glued this all together. It's nice and square this way, but all of this material was cut, on my table saw when my table saw wasn't quite square apparently. So squaring up the box afterwards I found to be incredibly difficult. I thought, for one, I'm not going to run it across my joiner because it would blow all of these side pieces apart. I thought maybe I could hand plane this bottom piece flat, so I started working on that, and I ended up getting cups that I was chasing with the plane. And so then I thought, well, I'll take it to the table saw, and I'll sand it on end, and I'll cut it, and I'll flip it and cut it. The problem is, you're not going to be able to see this, but these side pieces were never cut flat. So when it was on the table, it was like this, and then it was like this, so there's this dome in the middle. So I got it as close as I could by using the fence just to brush up to the side and shaving the small amount off this, shaving a small amount off of this, which gave me a flat 90-degree surface that I could do this whole flip thing with again. And it got really darn close. And then I thought, okay, I just need to sand it. So I took some sandpaper, I put the sandpaper on my table, I pushed down on this, and I sanded. And now what I have is radiused corners that look completely terrible. And so I'm abandoning it because I've tried to figure out how to flatten this thing flat enough that I could glue it to a piece of wood. I also didn't think about how I was making this when I made it. Like, I think you all know that I just kind of make stuff up as I go. And I should have really probably thought out how to do the bottom tray. I probably should have cut a groove, made this taller, cut a groove, inlaid a bottom. Would have been a way better way of doing this. So I think this project's going to get abandoned. Too many failures. It's getting to be too thin. It's not going to hold much. It's just not what I wanted. This project is also a failure, but it's completed. It's not a failure because it doesn't live up to the standard or whatever. It's not a failure because I don't like it. I actually think it's a pretty good design. I added a little round over at the top. I added a little round at the base to tie it all together. It's maple and it's probably red oak. I think it's red oak. Where I failed on this one was when I cut this bottom groove. I did it on my table saw. I set it to like about a 7 or 8 degree angle and ripped this groove in the bottom that I had to clean up with chisels. And then when I put this piece in, the intention was always that this base would be wider than this piece. I thought it would be a little bit more attractive if it wasn't just like, I don't know. When I put it in and I left it wide, I hated the gap. I really shouldn't have done it this way. I probably should have drilled this out and chiseled it out or something. But I hated having this little gap on the end. And so I thought about it and I said, well, I had some more of the material here. I said, I'll just cut that down and I'll put 2 little plugs in that bottom. And I sanded them to be the right angle and got it in there. They actually look really nice. The joints look really, really nice. And it's done. To me, that was a failure. To me, I should have thought about it. But again, just like I said with the other project, I just kind of went for it. I made this as a kind of a can I make it sort of thing. Is this what I want? And it's close. It's not bad. But this part really upset me. And so putting those in there, if I hadn't told you that this wasn't my original intent, that these little inserts weren't my original intent, and I handed this, anybody else looking at this is going to go, man, that's really awesome, and I really like the detail you added in the base, and, to anybody other than me, this is perfect. It's a great piece. It looks nice. It's going to function well. It's a nice little countertop piece. But to me, those little inserts are just the wrong thing. The thing I should not have done. In fact, talking to Jonathan, he's like, why didn't you use maple so that it looks like it's hidden? And I was like, yeah, I probably. So if I could have grain matched the maple, you would have never known that was there. I should have done that, but I didn't. I did it this way, and I could have just stopped and said, you know what? This isn't what I wanted. I'm going to start over. But I decided to just patch it up and see what happens. And I patched it up and I look at it now and I go, you know what? I kind of like it. It's fine. Like it is a little extra detail, and that's not a problem. And so I finished it. I mean, it's literally got finish on it. 2 coats of Tried and True's varnish oil is my new favorite. I've been using it quite a bit. It buffs in really nice and turns out really nice. And it smells fantastic. But I guess the moral of the story is there's probably a way to finish it. There's probably a way for me to save this. I could just glue a base on it and maybe make a piece of trim to cover up the bad connection. I could maybe set this into a piece. Instead of just gluing this on, I could route a section where this sits in and then leave this base proud. I could do a whole lot of things probably to make this work, and I might. But in my head, as of right now, I'm just going to start over and I'm going to make it better. How? I don't know yet. But it's a, chasing problems. I mean, I mentioned last week that problem solving is my favorite part of making, and it really is. That one, though, just kicked my butt. I really shouldn't have done it the way that I did it. And I shouldn't have built this the way I built it, but I did. And the end result is that nobody would ever say, they would look at it and go, that's a cool thing you made. And maybe that too. Maybe they would look at that and go, man, that's really pretty. How'd you do that? And I'd say, I don't know. I made it up as I went. And I think that, it's the same for me with software that I work on. I end up finding solutions that are not elegant, and it upsets me. But in the end, it gets done, and the user uses it and goes, this is great. And that's what actually matters. So, I guess that wasn't as interesting as a talk as I thought it was going to be. It's going to be beautiful here this week. Hopefully it's great wherever you are and you get to spend some time outside and re-experience the world. I haven't been out there in a while. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is polemic. It is a noun meaning a long, rambling speech or diatribe, the goal of which is to prove a point or sway the listener to see your point of view. We had a strong will and a talent for polemic. Saul Bellow, an American author. Polemic. Polemic. Is that not, like, what's the difference between polemic and a monologue? Are they not really the same thing?